Hello, welcome to News Desk. I am Amiesi Nyamiche Thompson. Coming up this hour, 55 appointees in the John Mahama administration defy ultimatum to declare assets and liabilities by March 31st, 2025. That's according to a research by the Fourth Estate. We have details of that on our desk. Also coming up, the Ghana Bar Association threatens to head to court if the president fails to adhere to their resolution as they insist on the revocation of the CJ suspension. And we'll hear from the Deputy Attorney General, who is also calling their bluff.
Encouraged to proceed to court on something like this.
Also on our desk, Child Rights International investigations reveal children between 5 and 12 years have dropped out of school entirely due to their involvement in illegal mining. These plus some business updates on our desk. Please stay for details. And in our first story, an analysis by the Fourth Estate has revealed that 9 out of 55 ministers and deputy ministers have failed to comply with the law and the president's directive. Similarly, 8 out of 32 presidential staffers and 37 of the 84 heads of state institutions appointed between January 15 and March 18 are yet to meet the president's anti-graft directive as of April 17, 2024. We'll speak to the former Auditor General, Daniel Domlevo, in a bit, but first, let's tell you what the president said when he gave them an ultimatum to declare their assets.
Modesty and prudence must be the guiding principle upon which you, myself, and our Vice President fashion our governance. The people of Ghana will hold us accountable for the trust that they have placed in our hands. It cannot be business as usual. We must be transparent and fair in all our dealings. The anti-corruption institutions will be empowered to investigate and deal with any appointee who falls foul of the law. I expect all of you to begin the process of declaring your assets. The Chief of Staff will announce the cutoff date by which time all eligible appointees should have deposited their assets declaration forms with the Auditor General.
Well, we'll get details of that list, but now let's engage former Auditor General Daniel Domlevo, who is joining us via Zoom. We're grateful for your time, sir, on News Desk.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
I assume that you've acquainted yourself with this list. What comes to mind when you realize that government appointees haven't really declared their assets as they're supposed to?
Thank you very much. The first thing is that this is gross indiscipline and disrespect for the president. And in my considered opinion, the president should do the needful by dismissing all of them without exception, because the president made a public announcement, which was followed by a directive from the Chief of Staff. This is not how to reset a country. If the team that is going to help the president manage the affairs of the country is so indisciplined, they don't have respect for the president, I think the axe must fall immediately. Should clear all of them. There are about 33 million Ghanaians and several capable people who can do the work. So I don't take this lightly at all. And I hope the president does not take it lightly as well.
Yeah, Mr. Domlevo, so I know that the president gave a directive, but what internal control mechanisms do you suggest, or would you think that government should have gone through to ensure that these appointees declared their assets?
You see, the Constitution, which actually requested for the declaration, Article 286, which requires that they declare their assets and liabilities to the Auditor General before taking office and after 4 years and when they leave office, does not prescribe any punitive measure, except that under Article 287, non-compliance with the declaration is supposed to be reported to the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. In my considered opinion, it is CHRAJ, or Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, which started this, creating this environment for indisciplined behavior, which has culminated in what we are hearing or seeing today. Because if the Constitution says that before you can take office, declare your assets, and people are found to be in office years after without declaring their assets, to me, the logical consequence or the logical step to be taken by the commission is that you are occupying office unlawfully, so vacate the office. But always what we hear is like, go and sin no more, including Chief Justice and Justices of Supreme Court, electoral commissioners, and etc. They were all left off the hook. That is why the indiscipline has continued up to today. I have always said that whenever there are no consequences for misbehavior, impunity takes over. And that is what we are seeing today.
Right. Mr. Domilevo, kindly stay with me. I'll come to you shortly. We'll get to hear from you, being a former Auditor General in that position. What should be done? But let me go quickly to my colleague, Kwekwasanti, who's with our Legal Affairs desk, to take us through that list of appointees, who and who having declared their assets, and also take a look at the law and what it says. Kwekwa.
So if you look at what the president did say early this year, he says, I have instructed the Chief of Staff to send word to all appointees to ensure that they declare their assets by the end of the first quarter of this year, that is by 31st March 2025. That is long gone, and so many of his appointees have failed or refused to comply with the directive of the president. And specifically, if you look at the data as we have been mining from this RTI request that did go to the Judicial Service, there are about 8 presidential staffers on that list. 8 persons who are presidential staffers, some of them very senior. Look at the name, Nathan Kofi Boakye. He's Director of Operations at the Jubilee House, and he was appointed on the January 15, 2025. He was with Mr. Domilevo on oral committee. Setakwa, a former finance minister, is a presidential advisor on economy. He was appointed on January 21. He has not declared. Nana Yajantua comes on this channel sometimes. She's the presidential staffer, also appointed in January, has not complied. Samuel Ofosuampo, the former NDC national chairman, he is a senior policy advisor at the office of the vice president. He has also not complied with this directive that the president gave on this matter. Then it goes on, there are very higher up persons like 4 regional ministers and then 5 sector deputy ministers who haven't done so. If you look at the deputy ministers, Broja Jemfi, the Deputy Minister of Defense, was appointed on March 12. He is well within that deadline that the president gave for this thing to be done by the end of March. He hasn't done that. Alasan Suhini, MP for Tamale North, Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways, appointed March 12. He hasn't also done this. Rita Odole Sowa, Deputy Local Government Minister, hasn't also complied. John Dumelo, MP for Ayawasu West Wogon, appointed March 12, 2025, has also not complied. And then Charity Gardner, the Half Regional Minister, hasn't also complied. And then there are a plethora of other state institutions, about 38 of them who are on that list who haven't done so. Right. This is what the law says, and you've heard Mr. Domilevo refer to it. It says, a person who holds a public office mentioned in the Act shall submit to the Auditor General a written declaration of all properties, assets owned by him, all liabilities owned by him, whether directly and indirectly, and it shall be the responsibility of the officers to make the declaration, and that is to obtain the requisite forms to do so. And the declaration shall be made before taking office. That is the law. And in fact, there are those who have said that even the president breached that, because when he submitted his own declaration assets to the Auditor General, he had been in office for several weeks and in close to 2 months when he did make that. And then you ought to do that again at the end of every 4 years. And that's so, Mamesi, that is what the law says. These are the persons who have breached the directive of the president and ultimately the law. And that is why Mr. Domelevo is calling for their head.
Right. So, Mr. Domelevo, you've been in that position before. This is what we are learning. Ideally, what should the Auditor General do?
Has no mandate to sanction anybody. The Constitution puts that squarely in the hands of the Commissioner for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. But these are constitutional provisions, and I don't think we can tamper with them. As for the Auditor General, his is to administer or receive the declarations and acknowledge it as such. But then Article 287 says any non-compliance should be reported to the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice.
Right.
So it is the commissioner and his team who have let us down from my point of view, because their argument is that there is no law which prescribes punishment for them. But it is as simple as if, Mamiesi, you are told that before you come and read the news, put on a jacket or wear a shoe, and you are not wearing a shoe, management must discipline you. Is that not it?
Sure.
This is a constitution requirement. Can we one day wake up and see a president who says, look, I have already been voted into power, so I don't need to be sworn into office. As for me, I'm going to start as a president. We tolerate that type of behavior. There are so many things required of public officers by the Constitution. If we allow them to go this way, then the impunity will continue. So that is why I blame the Commission for Human Rights for the soft-handedness with which they have handled this. And let me repeat my call again, that the president should let the ask fall immediately, irrespective. In fact, the presenter said Nathan Kofi Boakye is a member of the oral team. I'm sorry, we should not look at faces. It should be a matter of principle.
But do you think that the Auditor General should be given some, punitive, should be empowered to have some punitive measures to ensure that public office holders adhere to the law to declare their assets?
Well, let me say, wishes are not horses. Even if I wish for that, the Constitution does not provide for it, unless we are going to amend the Constitution to say that the Auditor General can disallow the existence of those people in office. I'll be very grateful. If the Constitution is going to be changed to say, look, anytime it comes to the notice of the Auditor General that people have defaulted in declaring their assets and liabilities, he shall inform the president for them to be removed from office, or he should just disallow their existence in public office, especially their payment on the payment of their salaries and benefits. I think it will be fantastic. But I think under the current circumstances, the Auditor General has no mandate to sanction anybody. The only body which is close to that mandate is the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, who to me have let us down. They should hold the bull by the horns and recommend that, look, Mr. Minister, you don't respect our laws, leave office. So that if the president fails to implement it, then we know it is the president who is encouraging lawlessness.
Thank you so much, Mr. Domelevo, for your insights into this conversation. We're very grateful for your time.
My pleasure.
Well, moving on, the Ghana Bar Association is asking President John Dramani Mahama to revoke the suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo or face legal action. This is part of a resolution passed at its mid-year conference. The association contends that the suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo is unconstitutional and violates Article 296 due to the absence of a proper governing framework. Well, portions of that statement says that the Ghana Bar Association calls upon the President of the Republic of Ghana to immediately release the full decision establishing a prima facie case against the Chief Justice consistent with established precedent. This disclosure is necessary to ensure that the process is conducted in accordance with the principles of transparency and fairness. It goes on to say the Ghana Bar Association also calls for the immediate revocation of the suspension of the Chief Justice as it considers the suspension to be unconstitutional, considering the fact that the President, who is not a judge or judicial officer, exercised his discretion to suspend the Chief Justice under Article 146(10) of the 1992 Constitution in the absence of a published constitutional instrument, statutory instrument, or regulations governing the exercise of his said discretion as required by Article 296 of the Constitution. Meanwhile, Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Shremsai has called their bluff, doubting that the court will not grant their reliefs.
I decided to abandon principles of law and rely on something else to form their opinion. And I think we first of all need to take the GBA's resolution in context. The failure or inability or refusal to publish a regulation to guide how the discretion is exercised does not in any way disable the person from exercising the discretion. And that is the point I'm trying to make, that when I look at all these instances, no PI has been published in respect of all the things that I've mentioned. There are about 50 more that I've mentioned. Does that mean that the president cannot appoint a minister? Shall that mean that the president cannot sign international agreement? Does that mean that the president cannot grant pardon? And so on and so forth. So there is really little law in what the GBA is standing on to say that unless the CI is published, the president, may not suspend the Chief Justice under this circumstance. We are convinced that our position is the right one. We don't know whether the GBA will gather the confidence and courage to proceed to court on something like this. I understand that decision to be political, and I don't think that there's any serious belief in anybody that the court will grant such a relief.
Well, joining us in this conversation is lawyer and MP for Menchia South, Naneje Bafwewa. We're grateful for your time on our desk.
How are you doing?
I'm well. Good to have you again. Well, with this, situation presented to us, the Ghana Bar Association pushing for the president to revoke the suspension of the Chief Justice, and government, better still, the Attorney General's office, on the other hand, calling their bluff and saying that this call is needless, or more to say that the courts may not grant this reliefs. What do you make of this supposed stalemate between the Ghana Bar Association and government?
So I speak as a citizen of the Republic of Ghana and a lawyer on this subject. Let's look at what the Ghana Bar Association...
Lawyer Bafwewa, please, could you amplify your voice a bit? We could hardly hear.
That
yeah.
On this subject, I speak as a citizen of the Republic of Ghana and a lawyer. And would want us to look at the Ghana Bar Association. It's just a pressure group. What they put out does not amount to a court order, right? What they have put out is their view of the law. Okay? From the Deputy Attorney General's response, it is obvious to me that what is being done by the president is as a result of the advice they are given to the president. Okay? Now, it then seems to me that very respectfully, very humbly to them, there's some misguidance in the circumstance, and I will explain to you why. There is no dispute that the president is exercising a discretionary power. Has anyone denied that the power of the president to suspend the Chief Justice under the 1.610 or 1.4 clause 10 is a discretionary? Have you heard it put deny that?
Could you make that again? I hardly heard
I'm
you.
saying that is anyone denying the fact that the suspension of the Chief Justice by the president under the 1.610 of the Constitution is the exercise of discretionary? Have you heard what deny that?
Unfortunately, it's very difficult hearing lawyer Bafwewa.
Can you hear? You can hear me?
Yes, it's clear now. I was struggling to hear you at first. Yes.
Have you heard anyone deny the fact that the suspension of the Chief Justice by the President under Article 146, Clause 10 is the exercise of discretionary power by the President. Have you heard anybody deny that fact?
No, I haven't.
Good. The fundamental question then is, do we all accept that the exercise of discretionary power is subject to Article 296 of the Constitution and Article 23? Do we all accept? Unless somebody is saying that in the case of the exercise of discretionary power by the President under the Constitution, it is exempted from the guardrails of Articles 23 and 296 of the Constitution. If that is the position being taken, then the position of the Attorney General is true. If that is not the position being taken, then the position of the Ghana Bar Association is true. But look, let me ask you this question, and it will be within a context. In 1960, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, hello?
Lawyer Bafo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
In 1960, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, exercising a power given to him by the 1960 Constitution, right?
Yes.
Removed, dismissed from office Chief Justice Akukosa and other three justices of the other three justices at the time. Okay, They were Justice Akufo-Addo, Justice Edumwa Bosman, right? Later, when we were doing another constitution, when Osajifo was out of the picture, we decided that it isn't proper to give the president such an amount of control over the judiciary. And so we decided that that power would not be available to the president anymore, right? 30 years or so later, we promulgated the 1992 Constitution, which is supposed to be informed by the lessons we have learned in the past. Okay? Now, within that context, let me ask you a question. Do you sincerely think that the authors of our Constitution will give the power to the president to decide whether or not to suspend a Chief Justice or a judge of our Superior Court within that context? Do you think that anybody will do that?
I'll leave that to you because I don't have that expertise to answer that question.
Let me tell you why they would not do that. Because when you give somebody the power, the discretionary power, he has a choice to do it or not. Do you understand? And that choice can be abused. And so to avoid such abuse is why the framers of our Constitution made provision for Article 296 of the Constitution. That is the first point. The second point is that when a person exercises a discretionary power, you and I as citizens have the power to challenge that person that the power you exercise, right, was not fair, was not candid, was arbitrary. Okay? Now, to be able to challenge that person, okay, there must be a guideline. There must be a guideline, which is the standard by which that person will exercise that power. Okay? Because without it, you will not be able to tell whether the power which was exercised is arbitrary, whether it was capricious, whether it was fair. Without that standard, and that standard is what we call regulation.
Right.
It is called constitutional instrument in the case of a discretionary power given to you by the Constitution. It is called a statutory instrument in the case of a power given to you by Parliament. Okay? Without it, we cannot challenge the exercise of discretionary power. The right to challenge the exercise of discretionary power is given to you by the Constitution under Article 23. You understand? And so that is the mode by which you would be able to challenge the exercise of discretionary power. Now, when there is no guideline by way of a standard, right, what are you going to challenge? Because the person has the power under the Constitution, which is discretionary. So what is the measure, what is the standard by which you are going to determine that the power was properly exercised? And that is why we are saying that the power to suspend, the suspension of the Chief Justice now is problematic. Because if the framers of the Constitution were minded, right, that once a prima facie case is determined, okay, the Chief Justice should be suspended, that power will not be discretionary. It will be automatic.
So do you think that GBA should go ahead and progress with legal action against government?
I think that it is necessary. A legal action is necessary. Let me tell you why. As Justice Sowa put it, the Constitution is a living organism. Not everything will find expression in the Constitution. It is developed through judicial interpretation. Okay? And so, by the time the decision will be made, it may well be that the removal had been consummated. But it is going to be the standard to guide us going forward. Look, we seem to think that we live for today as people. We don't live for today. We live, and whatever we do, we live and do them for tomorrow. We are doing them because of generation unborn. You understand?
Right.
And so we have to look into the future when handling some of these issues. Okay? Now, I also heard the Deputy Attorney General say that not in all circumstances are regulations required. It is not correct.
Right.
Justice Datiban in the France case, right, stated categorically that in the case of quasi-judicial situations, a regulation is required. What is a quasi-judicial situation? When I'm going to make a decision that will affect your rights directly. In this case, the suspension, is it not denying the Chief Justice the opportunity to be Chief Justice? It denies her constitutional duties. And you think that the premise of the Constitution would give the President the power to suspend the Chief Justice in a process which is even in camera, so nobody knows what is happening.
Well,
and that there is no guideline. No, please, I don't think so.
Well, let me move you away from the CJ and the issue about empaneling judges for cases, which the GBA also spoke on. Is it not the job of the Chief Justice to empanel judges for cases?
So I have a great difficulty appreciating that position of the GBA. The job of the Chief Justice is to empanel judges, right?
Right.
And so when the acting Chief Justice, right, is requesting that he's given a directive as to how he wants cases to be assigned, right? I'm struggling to appreciate that position of the Ghana Bar Association.
So they also said that there's an automated system that helps with the selection of these judges.
But the automated system is at the instance of the Chief Justice. Right? It doesn't take away the constitutional duty of the Chief Justice. So I am really at pain appreciating that position of the Ghana Bar Association.
Right. Well, lawyer Nana Ejay Bafwewa, we're grateful for your time with us on our desk this morning.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Moving on, Child's Rights International says its investigations have revealed that children between 5 and 12 in illegal mining areas have dropped out of school entirely to focus on illegal mining. The CRI opines it could cost the nation between 500,000 and 1 million Ghana cedis to rehabilitate just a child's involvement in illegal mining. Let's get further clarity on this. Executive Director for Child's Rights International, Bright Appiah, joins us on Zoom to give us clarity on this. We're grateful for your time, Mr. Bright Appiah. Is Mr. Appiah with us? Unmute and speak to us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clear now. We're grateful for your time on our desk. This report comes from your outfit, does it not? What do you mean when you say that?
Well, we carried out this in 2,162 households with a membership of over 10,000. And then we focused on children, the population of the children that we targeted were 6,000 6,000 and above. And then we looked at issues of education, we looked at issues of child labor, we looked at issues of health, and then we look at the income, the economic activities of children in those areas. So clearly, we realized that there's a correlation between the school dropout and then the earnings of the children. So, for instance, you pick the age bracket that you talked about. There's a gradual withdrawal from the classroom. So, when you even come to the age of 13 to 14, you realize that there's a sharp drop in terms of the enrollment of children. From that, you realize that about 80% are only enrolled in school between the ages of 13 and 14. And then from 15 to 17 is only 17%. And when you come to the income earning, the average earning of a child is 3 times higher than the average household earning in the mining areas. So children are getting more money from the illegal mining as compared to what even their household can afford. So clearly, it's giving them incentive to find their way into the illegal mining to be able to make ends meet. And because there's a school dropout, there's a clear linkage between that, the earnings, and then the school dropout rate in those areas, because a lot of them go to school and they drop out at a certain point to go and look for money that they can use to take care of themselves, their family, and then their grandparent.
Well, when you say it will cost the nation about between 500 and 1 million cedis to reinstate or rehabilitate just one or just a child to their former position, how do you break this down?
Well, it's a rehabilitation program, and the cost of rehabilitating a particular child is between that range. And in doing that, it means that even the calculation was done based on a continuous 21 days acquisition of a particular behavior. And if you want to reduce, we want to take away that behavior from that child, you will need between 500 and 1 million to be able to do that. And the minimum year that you require to do that is 2 years. And even some can take you about 50 years to be able to carry out that kind of rehabilitation. So clearly, it's not an avenue that the state want to venture into, where you want to see the distraction of the behavior of children, and then you want to spend that much to be able to undergo and to take them through rehabilitation program. And this is research that has been done by psychologists, and they have pegged those amounts to those levels. Some you can even spend more than that amount to even repair them. And even in spending that amount, it has also been said that you can't even get a full recovery. So it's not an area that we'd want to go into. That is why we are saying that the state should take a pragmatic step to deal with this matter, so that we don't spend so much money in dealing with rehabilitation program that the state do not even have the means to do that.
Well, what I would like to understand is, are these children forced into this trade, or they go on their own accord? In which ways are they involved in illegal mining?
Yeah, both ways, but the research that we did shows that children willingly want to go into it because of the resources that are attached to it, and some to forced to do that. And where they are mostly forced is when it comes to the exploitation area, where they force the children to engage in sexual exploitation. They force them to engage in certain activities, like when it is time for them to pay them, they force them to also pay some amount of money to other people. But when it comes to the direct engagement, almost about 90% of the children who were engaged in illegal mining did so on their own accord.
Who should be held responsible for their actions?
Well, it's a whole thing that we need to do, because we all know that mining, natural resources are invested in the hands of the state. So we'd have to first of all, deal with the state. The state must issue regulations to be able to ensure that we don't engage children in illegal mining. And for that matter, we need to have a certain environmental policy that also look at child protection and all that. So we first of all need to blame the state for what is happening. And then also look at how we have even structured the community mining policy and whether or not it is children and women are benefiting from those arrangements. And if not, we need to have a second look at those policies so that we can bring our children to a level where we want them to be, and then we redirect their energy into the classroom so that they will benefit from the learning so that they'll be more productive at the time that we need their energy.
But where does the parents come in ultimately? How do they share in this blame? Because they are supposed to be under the tutelage of their parents, under the care of their parents, an oversight, on their behalf. Why blame the state and not their parents?
It's a fact, but the point is that if you have lived in that community and all that you see is illegal mining, the community itself tend to have that kind of immunity to think that that is what they need to do. So for that matter, parents do not see the need to restrain their children from engaging in those acts. Because when we even did the research, almost about 8.6% of the children said that they do mining to take care of their grandparents. And when you go to those mining areas, a lot of children are not living with their biological parent, but they are living with their grandparent or their uncles and all that. So clearly, they do that work to take care of those people. So they will not have the zeal and the capacity to say that, don't go and do illegal mining. That is why we are saying that for us to even engage the parent, engage the community, then we need a superior law from the state to be able to redirect what even the parent need to do. Once we are able to do that, we can curtail the issue. But if you want to depend on parent or the family to deal with issues of illegal mining by preventing children from not engaging in it, then we will not get to a level that we want to, because they are also victims.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brightopia, for this. Well, we'll move on with our story. Some newly posted teachers are picketing in the Ghana Education Service over months of unpaid salaries, and Collins Frimpong is there for us to give us updates of what's happening there. Collins, what can you report? Collins, I can see you are there with some people over there. What can you report? What are they telling you? So, as you saw on your screen a while ago, there's some teachers picketing at the Ghana Education Service. Let's try again and see if Collins can hear us this time around.
Service headquarters in Accra here. We have hundreds of newly posted teachers who are currently picketing the Ghana Education Service over unpaid salaries. They've not received salaries for more than 8 months. They were posted in September 2024 to various schools across the country, but currently they've not received their salaries, and also some of them have not received their staff IDs. They've been here since around 7 a.m. Most of them came from the Ashanti region, Kumasi, that they've been here. That we want to engage some of them. First of all, please, what's your name?
My name is Sadiq Idris, and I'm part of the executives of this unpaid teachers of the 2022 batch of the Colleges of Education in Ghana.
So far, we've seen that you've been in engagement with the Ghana Education Service right from the morning when you were here. We saw that some of the police officers were trying to calm you people down. What really transpired then?
There's been a whole lot for, let's say, after this 1 hour, 30 minutes. Because when we went for the meeting, we met the Ghana Police Service. They said we've done a wrong thing, of which we have admitted, but we've corrected it behind closed doors. But the right thing that they are telling us right now is we are going to have a meeting, an emergency meeting with us again right now regarding the issues. So probably when we went there for these 1 hour 30 minutes, it was all about the Ghana Police Service ensuring our safety and then having a proper dialogue between us and the GS leaders.
So far, how many people have been affected? How many of your colleagues so far have been affected by this issue?
Currently, if I'm to be honest with you, I have about 3 platforms 3 WhatsApp platforms, and each consists of 1,025 people. So you can just calculate about almost 3,000 and something. For what we know, probably it shouldn't be everyone who knows about the platform or knows something about it. So that is it. Let's say about 3,000 of us currently are affected.
So far, what's the way forward? Today you are picketing. But before you tell us what the leaders are planning to do, give us more details about what is happening here and the issue really with the unpaid teachers.
Currently, to be very honest with you, no one wakes up and comes to picket at an office, especially a state office like that. The reason why we came here was because the last time we came here, they set up a committee of 3 members, of which we are going to have a communication with them for them to liaise every information to us. As we talk to you, no information had been communicated to them since then. That's why we have to picket again. And then I think my leader is asking me to calm down and then join him. I understand the situation, but I think I'll still give more insight to what is happening. So we came here. Could you imagine when we came here, they were still asking us who our leaders were. So you ask yourself, what happened to the names that they took? The numbers that they took, meaning there was no committee formed or what? Were they playing with us? At least we are your workers. We are serving Ghana. You are our leaders. We respect you. We can't disrespect you. We are trying to do the right thing. We're just begging you to help us and do the right thing. Pay us. It's not difficult. We've worked. It's the money that we've earned. You're not gifting us the money.
You go for the meeting with the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Should the salaries not be paid before May, the first week of May, as initially you people were saying, what is the group going to do? Are you going to the classroom?
Currently, salaries are not paid in the first week. It's entries that are made in the first week. But what we know, we can't ascertain whether that fact is true or is not true. But to be honest, what we know is entries are made in the first week of May, of which we are aware that it's been open to them because of tomorrow's holiday. So from 30th to I think on the 7th or 8th, entries should have been entered. So currently, by then we still get to know our details are not entered, we all have our ideas. To be very honest with you, very honest with you, we don't know what will transpire. But you will hear from us. To be very honest, you hear from us what will happen if we don't receive our salaries. Because I don't think none of these executives, with all due respect, would work for 9 good months without salary. Let's be very honest with yourself. Even with respect to you, Honorable Director, even the first month you were employed, you had your salary. How much mere people like us, we've gone to school, have the skill for 4 good years, done our service for a whole year, sat home for another year, which we have not talked about. See, it's not easy. We completed school in 2022, had our service in 2023, sat home another whole year till 2024. We are not complaining even about that. And then you give us appointment, and what is due us, you are keeping it. Should we go down on our knees to beg you like what our colleagues in Kumasi? Should we beg you? You are not gifting us the money. I'm very honest with you. The Minister of Education, Honorable, the government, His Excellency, whoever can hear this message, look at these people around here. They are not foreigners. These people are not foreigners. They are citizens of Ghana. These people, they are citizens. They first to they have the.
And those were excerpts from the office of the Ghana Education Service. We'll take a break now. When we return, we have business.
Welcome back to Business here on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Taki, and now to our first business story. Ghana currently mobilizes approximately $830 million annually in green finance, significantly below the estimated $1.9 billion required to meet its climate goals. Speaking at the Green Finance Workshop in Accra, Technical Director to the Minister of State on Climate Change and Sustainability, Cedric Jelu, reaffirmed the government's commitment to advancing Ghana's climate finance agenda. Here's more. The Green Finance Workshop, held under the theme Financing a Sustainable Future, Unlocking Investment for Industrial Growth, brought together key stakeholders to discuss strategies for mobilizing climate finance in Ghana and across Africa. According to the Technical Director to the Minister of State on Climate Change and Sustainability, Cedric Jelu, the government remains committed to advancing Ghana's climate agenda by attracting sustainable funding to support green initiatives.
The President is truly committed to advancing, green initiatives and addressing climate change head-on. When it comes to the role of green financing, it is evident that most of the climate-related issues that we need requires mobilizing financing from sources that are free from fossil fuel towards advancing climate change agenda. And most of these initiatives will go to create jobs, brings about new innovations, and to ensure that the average lives and daily lives of people will be sustainable in terms of business, in terms of trade, and in terms of general well-being. In that workshop, we saw that there's a gap where there's lack of technical capacity, from business sector, even from the private sector, and then also other stakeholders towards advancing initiatives in this space.
Executive Director of the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory, Paul Frimpong, stressed the importance of engaging all stakeholders in tracking and coordinating climate finance flows across the continent.
We found out in our preliminary research, we realized that Ghana actually needs about $1.2 to $1.4 billion every year to go into the green space. But as we're looking at it, we are doing about $800 million, which means that we are short almost half of that flow. So obviously there's a gap, and we are hoping that through the discussion and some of the communique that we issue and the report that will come out, be able to engineer a path that will attract more financing into the country. As we understand, the government across the continent, including Ghana, are focused on this issue about industrialization and, of course, boosting their manufacturing drive. So what we are trying to do is to have a stakeholder engagement to track and try and dig deeper to understand what actually is the landscape. What is it looking like? What are the key challenges? What are the gaps that are in there?
The Green Finance Workshop was organized by the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory with support from the Africa Climate Foundation. In other development, Enterprise Life, in partnership with the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana and the Community Practice Pharmacists Association, has unveiled a tailored life insurance solution aimed at enhancing the financial well-being of pharmacy professionals across the country. The initiative marks a major step in redefining how the pharmaceutical sector supports its people.
The Pharma Care Group Life solution is designed to meet the needs of community pharmacies across Ghana by supporting the well-being of staff within the community pharmacies. Yes, Managing Director at Enterprise Life, Jacqueline Benyi.
Together, we've co-developed a solution that not only meets the unique needs of pharmacy staff, but also emphasizes the importance of caring for those who care for us and ensuring the creation of an excellent working environment for pharmacy owners. Pharmacists, are the unsung heroes of our healthcare system. Despite the many challenges they face, they continue to offer essential care and support, often being the first point of contact for medical advice and sometimes even treatment. Their dedication ensures that patients receive the necessary medications and guidance not just to manage but sustain their health.
Chairman of the Community Practice Pharmacists Association, Dr. Emmanuel Kweku Ireland, called for a strategic and inclusive deployment of artificial intelligence in Ghana's community health system.
The Community Practice Pharmacists Association is the largest practice group of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. When we talk about practice group of the Pharmaceutical Society, we have pharmacists who are into community practice. Community practice is just the pharmacy in your community. You also have pharmacists who are into hospital practice, industry, and academia and all that. But then the Community Practice Pharmacists Association is the largest of all, 5,000 plus. And then we have our own pharmacists who are the practitioners who have been covered under life insurance and other stuff.
That's all for business here on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Taki. Let me stay sitting by for the rest. Marisi.
Thank you, Winston, for business. And, well, that's how we wrap up today's edition of A Desk. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. I am Amisi Nyamiche Thompson. We'll be back tomorrow.